HappiDaze here. In today's video, we're going to go over the accessible teams for the next TM that is coming up against the Egghead unit. So let's go ahead and dive into these teams. We'll talk about what we're doing. Now, for a lot of these teams, we are using the recommended, at least for a lot of the first three, just because there are a lot of free-to-play units. So, for example, Luffy, we're getting for the login bonus. For the Brook battle, you have Ace, who you can get through a bunch of the different game modes and exchanges that are out there. You got the Super Evolution of Kaido, which we just got. Once we get to the latter teams, a lot of those teams don't feature a lot of the recommended characters. So I wanted to assume that you didn't pull any of the new units. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into Chopper first and see what he does. So luckily, you won't have to worry about Stage 3. He gives you block orbs. There's a hunger for 2 turns, rainbow shield, and some threshold damage reduction there. So nothing too crazy. Like I said, the Luffy unit here will help you a lot. He'll help get rid of those block slots and just help you there. The Nam unit will help with the rainbow shield that's there. Unfortunately, when I click on it, it's not bringing up, but she'll help with the rainbow shield. And also, we have some of these units here who have the hunger sockets, so we're using that to get rid of the hunger here. So like I said, the Nami will help take care of the rainbow shield and the threshold damage reduction. Luffy will take care of orbs, and the rest are really just point boosters. These 3 down here just to help you. So if you want to swap them out with other units, obviously they built this team to be centered around units that are he's a side boss, right? So you want to use inf units, so that's why I'm using those 3. But feel free to use any of the other boosters. If you have any higher ones, have fun, knock yourself out. So for fight number 2 against Brook, what we're doing here is he is a dex boss, so obviously we want to bring strength if we can. So what we're going ahead and doing is really just using these units here. Ace and the Whitebeard are the key units here, right? So Ace will reduce your HP by 95%, which will help you trigger Whitebeard special. He does burn for 3 turns. He just does a bunch of stuff that's out there that's just absolutely fantastic. End of turn damage. You just get a lot of good stuff from him. So the combination of both Ace and Whitebeard, who has the special criteria, you have to be below 10%, which you are when you do the Ace special there, will basically just make sure that you do a ton of damage. You have chain boundary. It's awesome. You can just kind of get through this content, no problem. Now, originally I was trying to see if I could get rid of the burn. You really don't even have to worry about it. So you could actually replace this Luffy unit down here with any unit that's just a high booster. I was just trying to find some that were in the higher boost category. But like I said, this Luffy down here, completely replaceable. If you want to throw another red unit on there, you certainly can. Now, Ace does turn the shooters into super shooters, which is why we have this Stuss unit here and this beige here, just so they'll get a little bit extra damage bonus from getting the super shooter class when Ace uses his super type. So next we'll go into the Franky and Usopp fight. Nothing kind of too crazy there. So there is Rainbow Shield. You get bad orbs here, threshold damage. And then on death, you get a nasty little death hit. So you just want to make sure that when you're fighting them, you have some way to be able to tank that hit, right? You don't want to take that. I mean, it's not a lot of damage anyway. It's only 20,000. But the painful part is that you also have to get a Wano orb, which is why this Kaido is so critical. Because what his special will do is, besides getting a bunch of damage down and some damage, fixed damage that's there, what he would do is he'll actually change all the character slots in your crew to their slot type, and then he'll give himself a Wano orb. So it's perfect. You can use one Kaido on the fight 3 and then another one on the revive just to help get through there, and you'll have that Wano orb you need to go ahead and break that barrier down here. So nice and easy. Don't have to worry too much about it. This Albert is kind of the key here because one, he gets rid of the damage reduction there. He just does a lot of great stuff. And I just there's also this Big Mom on the team. She kind of does a very similar thing anyway. So with the combination of these two, we can get rid of both the threshold damage as well as the Rainbow Shield with no problem at all. And then, like I said, it's just tanking the death hit. It's only a 20k hit, so I'm not too concerned there. So basically, these 2 units at the bottom here, the Smoker and the Hina, are just point boosters. So you can completely replace those. You want to go with quick units because the boss is strength, but you just want to go for whatever higher boosts you can get there. When you get to the last 3 teams, it's kind of where it gets much trickier. The Jinbei fight is actually pretty hard compared to the usual fights that we have out here. So let's just take a look at what he does. He does a bunch of gimmicks here, and he does a 100k death hit, which is just absolutely terrible. So you want to make sure you definitely have someone who can do percent damage shield on your side. So he does give 6 turns of paralysis. block slots, 9 turns of bind for the top row. You have a damage nullification for 1 turn. You have a good barrier. So what we're doing here is we're using the Nami and Karina unit. The strength is awesome. They're boosted in this fight. So we can use the Nami special to go ahead and get rid of that paralysis. Now, the idea here is they want you to use a Bonney captain, whether it's your captain or a friend captain, to get rid of that bind, just so you don't have to get them up with a whole bunch of supports that can do that. So in this case, we're using a friend captain Bonney. Keep in mind, similar to what we're doing on this Lilith team over here, if you don't have a friend captain Lilith in your friends list, so you can't find one, just go ahead and throw this Luffy on that team as well. He has a captain ability that will basically resist 10 turns of bind. So you just don't even have to worry about the content. So if you don't have Bonney, don't worry. You can use a friend captain unevolved G5 there to take care of that bind. So the Bonney is really just to help us just get rid of some block slots if we have him. Otherwise, she just gives a little bit of attack boost for int characters, so nothing too crazy there. We're using this Kuruma unit to help with the death hit that's there. The special is pretty much useless because we don't have a lot of powerhouse characters on our team. But getting the 80% damage reduction for 3 turns will just help us survive that 100k death hit that we get from Jinbei. So we do have the Sanji over here, and his real purpose is, one, when specials get around by 1 turn, basically what he'll be able to do is help get through that. He does do attack down, but his key thing too is damage nullification, right? So he'll remove that 1 turn damage nullification here, make it much easier, and then to take care of that barrier for good hits, that's why we have this chopper along. This chopper will just come in, he'll help reduce the enemy barrier by 1, so we don't even have to worry about this chain barrier, and you get also a little chain buff as well there, which is always fantastic. Can't complain about getting chain buffs for free. So yeah, that's the team to go ahead and take on Jinbei. So Bonney and Lilith are pretty tough. I think that Bonney is probably tougher, which is kind of weird to say just because I think there's a lot of units that can take on Lilith. So the big issue with Bonney is that, they really want you to have a captain that has despair, right? So ideally they want you to have the new Lilith that just came out, right? She can take care of 6 turns, and then you'd use the friend captain Nico Robin to take care of the other 6 turns, and that would hit your 12 turns. But we're assuming you didn't pull any of the new units. We're assuming that you didn't pull on the PKA Sugo that was there to get Lilith. So this is the team that we came up with here. So what we want to do is we have to reduce 6 turns of attack down as well as increase defense. So the unit that does this really good is this Jinbei here, because you can basically reduce the increased defense by 5 turns and the attack down by 5 turns. Now, if you noticed, it's actually 6 turns of attack down. So what we had to do here was throw this specific chopper support on the Sanji unit here. And what he does is he basically reduces attack down by 1 turn. So we'll bring it down to 5 turns so that Jinbei will be able to take care of the 5 turns blue shield as well as the 5 turns attack down once chopper support runs on there. You do get your specials around by 1 turn. So we have this Sanji unit here. He's purple. He's Int, so he has type advantage, which is great. He resists special cooldown on himself by 3 turns, which is great, and then he'll basically reduce the cooldown of the crew by that 1 turn, so you get all your specials ready. So on stage 2, we're going to end up using the Jinbei special, we're going to end up using the Sangoro special, and lastly, the special that we're going to be using is the Blackbeard special. And the reason that we want to do it on this stage is because if you hit 2 perfects on this stage, he'll give you a chain boundary on the next stage. There's a nasty debuff where if you do a chain setting, then you get 5 turns slot bind and your buffs all your positive buffs get removed. So you don't want to trigger it on this turn. So being able to have Blackbeard do it on this turn will make it so it won't trigger when it goes, as long as you hit your 2 perfects here. Now, I do have the support Lafitte on Blackbeard just because he'll help with taking 2 turns of despair. If you have the friend captain Nico Robin here, she'll take care of 6. So with the support of the Lafitte, that'll be 8. And then also the support that's on the Luffy unit here, the Sabo unit, will also give you another 2. So that's 10 right there, plus 3 from sockets. We get the 13. We have enough to go ahead and take care of all the despair, so we don't have to have a specific unit there to worry about that despair buff. So going into the final stage there, what you'll see is that we have we've used Jinbei, Sangoro, and Blackbeard on the second stage, and then on the third stage, what we want to do is we want to use Nico Robin because she'll help take care of that resilience that's on there. She'll also help take care of the blue shield by setting defense to 1 for 1 turn, which is fantastic. Works perfect. As I mentioned, the chain debuffs that you get here are taken care of by from the Blackbeard on the previous turn, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we're using this Luffy here to help get rid of the chain buffs that are basically there. So we remove them for 6 turns, so that's perfect. Don't have to worry too much about it. He'll change his own block slot, but that's not kind of too crazy. And it also gives a little side boost as well, attack boost. Like I said, not the key to the team. We're not too worried about that. So we'll use the Luffy special first, get rid of the chain buffs. We'll use the Ace special next. He'll give all our orbs from block into the dominant type. We have 4 int units on our team. So go ahead and make our whole team have int orbs, which is perfect. And then he gives a 1.4 to the chain multiplier for 2 turns, which is awesome. Because he's captain, I believe he even extends that another turn, so you're basically good. You should have enough damage there. He also boosts attack too of the dominant type, which in this case would be the int. And because Bonney is a side boss, it just gives us that much more damage that's there. So yeah, we use Bonney, Shanks, and Luffy on the 3rd fight, and we'll use Jinbei, Sanguru, and Blackbeard on the 2nd fight, and that will help us get through. You can throw whatever supports you want on Jinbei or Shanks here. I'd recommend maybe like slot boost or normal effects. Any of those buffs you could throw on them. If you have like the new PK Lilith, she's good on any of these units. So you have a bunch of different options that you can do that's there. But yeah, feel free to just throw whoever you want. What's really important is having this Sabo to help with the defense and the despair. This Lafitte to have help with the despair as well. And then this Chopper unit to help with the attack down that's there. And then the last team that we'll get into, which is the Lilith team. So we kind of, this is tough because we don't have a lot of good units that can take care of the bind. Like I said, what they really want you to do is to use the Bonney unit in this, right? She can take care of 6 turns of bind by herself. So again, 6 turns of bind by Bonney, 6 turns of bind by Nico Robin, and that would give you the 12 turns, right? But again, we're assuming you didn't pull, so that makes things a little bit more difficult for us because the units you can use are much lower there in terms of the units that can kind of get to where you need to be. So what we're going to go ahead and do is that, and like I said, if you want to change this up, it's only 9 turns of bind. So if you really... It's 9 turns bind on the 2nd stage and then 10 on the 2nd, right? So that's 10 on the 3rd. So that's why you really just want to make sure that you have a captain who can help get through that. So what I went ahead and did is I didn't want to deal with any of these shenanigans. I know that he won't get his special lowered all the way because he's not a boosted unit, but this Luffy here, just the fact that he is able to go ahead and remove those 10 turns of bind as his captain ability just lets him just completely ignore the bind that happens on stage 2 and 3. So I want to go ahead and did that. I don't want to have to deal with, coming up with all these different supports and things like that to do it. I know it's a lower point booster, and you could probably re-engineer this team to get higher point boosters, but it's just easier. Just throw Luffy on the team. Boom. You don't have to worry about bind anymore. So in terms of the gimmicks on stage 2, you can take a 50% HP cut. In terms of the paralysis, so we're using this Zoro unit here. He'll help remove paralysis by 6 turns, which is awesome for us. In terms of the hunger that's there, so for both the hunger on stage 2 and the slot bind on stage 3, so for the hunger, we're going to end up using a combination of the Mr. 2 and the Sanji to get rid of the hunger. And then for slot bind, we're going to use a combination of the Zoro and Sanji potential abilities to get rid of that. So just make sure if you're using these characters, potential abilities are leveled up, just to make sure you can get through 5 turns of slot bind and at least 3 turns of hunger. But those 3 units will kind of help you get through there. Now, you do get badly matching slots here. So what I ended up doing is we brought this Mr. 3 unit on the team just so he could go ahead and change our slots to recovery. So we won't have to worry about getting attacked down, which is great. And he gives a boost to characters as well. I'm thinking of actually, you can choose when you use his special to change his type and class. You can mess around if you want, but I'm probably just going to keep it, as it is. But you could change it if you want to do some more buffs or get some different things on there. But no need to. We're really just using him for the ability to turn all the orbs into recovery orbs. So he will go ahead and take care of that. And like I said, the Luffy will take care of the bind here. So going into stage 3, again, Luffy takes care of the bind, which is awesome. We have the Zoro and Sanji who are taking care of the slot bind. We have the Nico Robin friend captain who's taking care of the resilience. And then we have this attack down being taken care of by the Jinbei unit here. So great unit, same one we used on the Bonney team, can go ahead and remove that 5 turns of attack down for us, which is fantastic. And then we just attack. So if you get an attack boost, you do get your buffs cleared and a swap. So you just want to make sure that if you're getting any attack boosts, you're getting it through supports or things like that that won't trigger. No specials that are giving you attack boosts, because otherwise it will be a pretty nasty run for you, and it'll probably end pretty quick if all your buffs get removed. So there we go. That's the accessible teams, I would call it, that you can use to go ahead and take on this TM. Like I said, it's a little bit tricky, especially the Jinbei team is pretty hard to come up with, but everything else wasn't too bad. And like I said, as long as on the Lilith team you're willing to use a non-boosted unit, I think that's the only non-boosted unit I've actually used on all these teams was that Gear 5 Luffy. But he just makes the content so easy to get through. It just makes sense to just use him instead of trying to re-engineer whole complicated teams around that, getting rid of the rest of those bind, especially because it gets done twice to you. That's even worse. It makes it much harder to go ahead and do that. So we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys, have a good TM run. I'm going to probably post a video probably tomorrow with my team. So I do have the Lilith, I do have the Bonney, and I'll probably be, and I did pull the Sanji from the TM Sugo. So I'll have my teams out here. I don't expect a huge change to these teams, except for probably those last 3 teams, the Jinbei, Bonney, and Lilith. I think I'll keep the first 3 teams as they are, just because they're all point boosted teams outside the recommended units, and then we'll kind of go from there. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, like and subscribe, and until next time, be kind to each other.